Were you and Benny Atkinson teammates though, or was it just completely separate deals?
Completely separate deal.
Because I was confused, because obviously you're doing promos together and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, it was two totally. So essentially, it was just the outfits that we'd already been running, and the Rocket and Aeroflow were branded on them. So, look, to be fair, prior to that, I could walk past Ben and say g'day, and that was about it. But now he's probably one of the best people in the sport that I know.
Yeah. His son's gone right, eh?
Yeah, BJ's he's a gasser.
Yeah.
Well, so was his dad, or is his dad. I kind of wish, and I sort of feel like I've had a part in Ben's somewhat retirement. I don't know if to call it retirement yet or not, but
made his hang up his helmet.
Yeah, but I'd hope he's going to be back in the car.
Go! And you're doing it, he's in! That's a massive crash, and it's happened immediately! This is amazing! Big shot, and it's lights out, and away we go!
And you worked 15, just as you told me before, I thought you still worked at Rocket, right? But you worked there for 15 years, was it?
Just shy of 15 years, yeah. And it was a job that started out as, when I was like 17, 18, in the off season here in winter, I'd try and go to the States and do something over there, revolving around sprint car racing. And then, so I came back one year and at the time, Matt Young, who worked at Rocket and ran the Speedway division, just rang. I think I might have gone there and bought some parts or whatever. And he said, hey, do you want a job for the summer sort of thing, And I said, oh, yeah. And he said, it'll save you flipping burgers at Macca's until, you typically go to America next or whatever. And I just never went back. Well, I never really went back to America after that. I just stayed home for the most part and ended up staying there for nearly 15 years. So,
Were you and Benny Atkinson teammates though, or was it just completely separate deals?
Completely separate deal.
Because I was confused, because obviously you're doing promos together and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, it was two totally. So essentially, it was just the outfits that we'd already been running, and the Rocket and Aeroflow were branded on them. So, look, to be fair, prior to that, I could walk past Ben and say g'day, and that was about it. But now he's probably one of the best people in the sport that I know.
Yeah. His son's gone right, eh?
Yeah, BJ's he's a gasser.
Yeah.
Well, so was his dad, or is his dad. I kind of wish, and I sort of feel like I've had a part in Ben's somewhat retirement. I don't know if to call it retirement yet or not, but
made his hang up his helmet.
Yeah, but I'd hope he's going to be back in the car. But obviously, I can see that, BJ's of the age where he's starting to get rolling too. So it's just a decision he has to make, I suppose. And look, at the same time, Ben's a gun. So I'm sure there's offers there. And look, sometimes the offers just aren't what you need or what you think fits at the time. So hopefully he's back in a car again. But at the same time, obviously BJ's worth putting his time into as well. He's proven that naturally recently. Like he won the last round up at Darwin for the Chariots series, and he beat basically all the best guys in the country. So, like I say, that I can see Ben's kind of predicament in: do I keep racing or do I just channel everything into BJ?
Yeah, and with that stuff though, I think between you and Ben, who was. So did you have the same chassis though or anything or not?
For a very short amount of time we did, yeah. But yeah, basically nothing was the same as such. I mean, we obviously helped each other out at points, and the thing is with sprint cars, and I guess like anything, naturally, whether you've got a J&J or a Maxim or whatever chassis it is, everyone's still racing on the same track. So a lot of the stuff does relate even though you've got different cars as such. A lot of it's kind of rule of thumb, but so we talk a lot about all kinds of stuff, but no, we were two separate teams, two separate outfits. Like I say, it was basically just our outfit and his outfit got branded with Rocket and Aeroflow.
Well, you two as well, like I think this is what I'm trying to think of. Toby Bellbowen did Sprintcar Hub with yourself and with Benny J Jr. And what was that like, having Toby, an ex-sprint car driver, following you around? And what do you think of his Sprintcar Hub anyway?
I think it's excellent. I mean, the sport kind of lacks that kind of media
presence.
Yeah, and that kind of insight background. There's no one really doing it. especially in this country. I mean, there's a little bit of it in the States, maybe not to the sort of style that Toby's doing it though, and obviously his insight with his knowledge and passion for it. I guess it's something that he's kind of fallen into and did to start with just for a bit of fun, but because he's so passionate about it and knowledgeable, it's coming off that way on the camera and people enjoy it. So I think it's an excellent thing he's doing for the sport, and I mean it's actually it's funny now to think about if he wasn't doing it, you know, like I feel like he's at home doing it, you know. And sadly it's because he can't race himself anymore. Yeah. But I guess there's a good thing that come of that, and that's the fact that he's pushing sprint cars into the, I guess, the forefront of people's eyes that way. Yeah,
and Roddy's obviously done, we were talking outside, done you and Brett's car.
Yeah.
He's obviously also retired, but he helps out a lot of the speedway community as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that deal, like as you were saying to me outside, those, literally you and Brett's car were black and you didn't really care about what the design was. You just drew it on a piece of paper or something, didn't you?
Well, we just didn't know.
Yeah.
So we were scheduled to race the first night at Eastern Creek this coming Saturday as such, or you know, a week out from the Saturday, and we still really didn't know what the cars were going to look like. And it was only that, I mean, I'd already talked to Roddy and said, hey, we're going to have some stuff for you to do here shortly, but I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And he sort of said, yeah, okay, no worries, let me know when you're ready. And by the time we were ready, it was like, it's too late. Like, I haven't got enough time. Like, basically, you better tell me exactly what you want, or it's just not going to happen. So we basically just jotted a rough design down on paper, and he just kind of sparkled it up a little bit, and as much as he could in the time frame, and sign wrote a car only. Yeah. And we literally, we were supposed to run Eastern Creek on the Saturday. It washed out, and we made a last-minute call to drive to Queensland. And so we literally left in the truck, went straight to Roddy's, picked the race car up, put a few things back on it, obviously, just to make it easier to sign right. We take a few things off, bolted those on in the car park, pushed the car back in the truck, and drove to Queensland and raced.
Yeah. What's it like, though? We're touching on Brett before, him as a teammate and him racing, you know, obviously the Tyre racing stuff, but obviously now it seems to me that he's more enthused in racing sprint cars than actual GTs and stuff. Like, what's it like having him? Did you give him was it the spare car that you gave him to learn in, or has he still got that car? Like, what's the deal now?
So it sort of started during COVID. We obviously didn't have anything to do. We couldn't race or anything. So we spent a lot of time going to the MX Dome at Eastern Creek, just a lot of the old Carter boys.
Yeah, you guys do that every Thursday, don't you?
We used to, yeah. It's kind of gone quiet now, especially because racing's back, and everything else is back. Like at one point there was just so little to do. It was like, oh, well, I guess we'll go motorbike riding every Thursday, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess it was better than going to the pub or a little bit less alcohol involved or something, I don't know. But so we went riding, and Brett had come, and after a few nights we started talking, and he sort of mentioned a couple of times that he wanted to have a go, and he has driven before a long time ago. He'd had a go.
Yeah. Was this when he raced supercars then, dabbled in sprint cars or something?
Possibly could have even been before he even went supercar racing, you know.
Yeah,
It might have been around his sort of Formula 4 days or somewhere around there. It was just a one-off. It was just a one-off. Like when I say a one-off, wasn't even an event. It was just like literally one lot of 10 laps or something, you know.
Yeah.
And he said he wanted to have a crack. And so we sort of did a deal where he leased just my old car, and he raced probably 3 or 4 races in it last season, which was a pretty abbreviated season anyway, with everything that was still going on COVID-wise. Everything was so broken apart, and the opening of the new track and all that kind of thing kind of didn't allow a lot of racing. But he had a few goes and enjoyed it, and decided, hey, I want to get involved. So he's bought another car, and that's the car he's actually been running lately. He's got my old car as well, which is kind of the backup. And thankfully, we took it to Toowoomba for him as a spare the other week, because I crashed my car and I ended up jumping in it.
Yeah, I noticed that. I saw that.
But that was a bit of a dud move by me, crashing the car in qualifying. But anyway, but like I say, luckily he took it because I ended up needing it more than he did. But so yeah, look, it's. Yeah, just a kind of snowballed from really nowhere, just a conversation, you know. And like I say, I think to the point where if he's enjoying it more than the GT stuff, I don't know if he enjoys it more. I think he enjoys the side of it that it's fresh and new and different, and a major challenge. Like, not that the GT stuff's not challenging, obviously, but just the challenge of, hey, I've got to learn this from scratch almost, you know. It's not obviously nowhere near his comfort zone. It's something totally different. I think he's enjoying that, and I think, like anything, for the first few times you dip your toes in the water, you kind of think, okay, this is fun. Then it gets to a point where you go, hang on, maybe I'm not good enough, or am I going to be good enough, or I don't feel like I'm getting there quick enough, and you sort of doubt yourself. But then I think in the last couple of weeks again, or at least in the last, probably, Eastern Creek, well, actually every race this year, to be honest, I think he's jumped another level every night, and I think he's starting to become more competitive, and he's sort of mixing into the crowd more, and he's starting to feel like, hey, I can do this,
Yeah. Has he ever told you to have like maybe a switcheroo where you have a go on the GT car or not?
No. Well, no. That'd be nice.
That doesn't come part.
No, unfortunately not. I don't know if I've got the checkbook for that.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool. I mean, I'd always love to do some road racing stuff.
Yeah.
Just naturally, the family's involvement in Speedway made it an easy sort of path to go down, and knowledge about it. It made it an easy decision to go that way, and it is cheaper naturally than at least some of the, obviously, a lot of the road racing classes. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some that are more affordable, but to go down the Speedway path, it's just a fairly inexpensive sport comparatively to some of the other ones, like obviously GT and supercars naturally, and even Formula Ford. It's just so expensive in the road racing side that we just never really could go that way.
And you and your family live up the road from Dave Moore, eh?
Yeah. So we only met him when we moved there. I'm trying to think. I don't know who introduced me or told me to. I must have had something to machine up or something, and they said, "Hey, Dave Moore lives down the road," and I've obviously known him for a few years now, and he's a really cool dude, And obviously met Bart, and I'd always heard or known of Bart's name.
Yeah. But, so you never got to race Bart?
No. I guess, again, he's probably just that few years older.
Yeah.
So I sort of missed him that way, but I'd always knew of him and knew the name. And obviously, when you're involved in any kind of car racing or whatever it might be, you always, even if it's not your main interest, you're always semi-interested in all other forms of racing. And so you'd see his name pop up here and there in different things when you keep an eye on, something on TV, or if you go to the races one weekend at Eastern Creek or something, you just knew his name. And it was pretty coincidental that we just happened to move 2 minutes down the road.
Yeah. What do you think of the Speedway, as you said at the start of the podcast, the Tyre situation here? How's that going to work out for the season? Because obviously there's a lot of cars wanting to race. So are you guys having to actually tyre manage per meet? How's that all working out?
At this point, yeah. So it's a pretty big concern. I think the biggest worry is heading into Christmas time when there is a lot of racing on.
Yep.
It's kind of a worry that there's going to be a lot of cars wanting tyres and a lot of races, and generally that time of year the tracks are harder on tyres because the tracks are drier.
There's that Chinese tyre available, but that's not allowed to race or something like that. I don't know.
So
I read a lot of things. So.
Yeah, so there's a DirtX tyre that's just come about. You're not allowed to use it at Eastern Creek, at least at this point. I think, I don't know exactly. So a lot of clubs or tracks will have their own tyre rules. So Eastern Creek, you can run an American Racer or a Hoosier, it doesn't matter. But for instance, you go to Victoria, if you run the SRA series down there, you've got to use a Hoosier right rear. You can't use an American Racer. So a lot of the places stipulate what you can and can't use. So I don't know exactly where, or if there are anywhere or any places that you can use the DirtX tyre yet. On a sprint car, I know they're being used on like wingless cars and things like that. But the tyre situation is pretty dire, and I feel like we haven't really. I mean, we're feeling the brunt of it now because there basically hasn't been any around for the last couple of weeks. So really, our tyre management deal is we're just getting everything out of the tyres we've got because, as I say, we just can't get any more. So I think that kind of opens up here in the next couple of weeks. I think Hoosier and American Racer are supposed to get shipments in, but it seems like as soon as they come in, they're all gone again. So it's the cycle's not catching up on itself. We're not getting into a point where there's just a good supply of tyres.
So essentially, all sprint cars need 2 shipments instead of 1.
Whatever it is, we need to double it. And I think it's not so much that they're not ordering it. I just think that the manufacturers can't supply it, or at least keep up with demand. And like I say, 2 or 3 months ago, the States was in a really bad patch where there was races being cancelled because there just wasn't any tyres in the area.
Yeah.
Certain clubs and certain series at this point are trying to help with their formats. Like they might be dropping a round of heats, so you only got one set of heats rather than two, just to try and limit the tyre wear.
Yeah.
But then there's other tracks that are racing as normal. I don't know how much it's going to help or not. Really, it just depends on how much comes in realistically. And the worst thing about it is with sprint cars, you know, I guess in road racing in some cases, and I might be wrong, but you could kind of almost pre-plan how many tyres you're going to use. You know, you've got one set for the weekend or another set to practice on or whatever, and you know that set of tyres will get you through the weekend, but you're going to need a new set for the week after. Whereas a speedway, you can go race at Eastern Creek on this Saturday and you'll put a brand new tyre on and you'll finish the whole night and the tyre still looks brand new.
Yeah.
You go back there the next week, you go out and qualify and destroy it.
Yeah.
It can be so one side of the spectrum to the other, like as far as how the tyre wear is, that it only takes a few races here or there where it's bad on tyres and all of a sudden the tyre supply is extremely limited.
Yeah.
And this has happened over the years a number of times, but it's generally been that the stock levels are high enough that it, you know, overcomes it. But right now, we just can't kind of afford that.
Yeah. Do you ever think that I was talking to Brooke off air about sprint cars and how the world with TikTok and all those apps these days want quick, fast racing. Do you ever see sprint cars ever going back on national TV, being a summer type of cricket deal, or do you think that the community is just going to stay the way it is? Because obviously I've had multiple personalities on this podcast saying it should be doing this, it should be doing that. What's your take on it being like a front-running driver?
I think the biggest thing, and as much as we talked about the States, how everything's easy and good and all that sort of stuff over there, one of their big things as far as broadcasting-wise, I feel like even as an avid supporter of sprint car racing, I feel like one of the big downsides to the World of Outlaws, at least live stream, is the work area, because it just delays the race so much longer than what it should be. Like, you know, there can be races that realistically, like I said before, a sprint car race might only go for 8 minutes, but it takes half an hour because there's 22 minutes of someone parked in the pits changing a wing or changing a tyre. And as much as that's all good in road racing, because the race is still going on around it.
Yeah.
Whereas in speedway, the whole race stops and there's someone in the work area for 2 to 5 minutes or whatever it is. And it's cool to watch, cool, because there's one team helping this team and everyone kind of chips in. And look, the camaraderie is great and all that kind of thing, but I just feel like as far as a spectacle is concerned and a short, sharp show, it just takes away from the race, I feel. And I think to that point over here, particularly with a lot of our tracks, they run too many divisions on one night. Like tomorrow, for instance, we'll have to get to the racetrack at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something, and we probably won't start racing until 4 or 5. And in a lot of forms of motorsport, that's probably not a lot of time to wait around.
Yeah.
But in sprint car or speedway terms, it's like an eternity, because you're so sort of hell bent on, you know, you turn up, you roll your car out, you do your little bit of prep, which isn't much for a sprint car. You know, if the car doesn't roll out of the truck ready to race, I feel like you shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
You know, you race for a couple of hours basically, and you pack up and go home, or do whatever you need to do, go to the next track or whatever it is. But the race meetings are becoming so much longer, and they're filled with so many other divisions and support classes that I don't know if they could do it.
Do you think they should shorten some of the support classes and move them to their own night, which they're kind of doing, to give you guys a bit of time? Because literally, Brooke and myself going out there tomorrow night, literally to watch you and the other guys. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you're the show. So that's what we want
that's
to watch.
Right, exactly. And look, take nothing away from the other divisions. There's other divisions that are on their night are the draw card for sure.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking about. Like, you could have sprint cars, speed cars, and you could have one late models. Do you know what I mean? And then the undercut, like 2 or 3 undercards.
So what happens is, even if you put on like an event, so they did that at Sydney or Parramatta a few years ago, where they had the Ultimate Speedway Challenge or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
And it was
Ultimate
midgets.
Sprint cars?
No, it was the Ultimate Speedway. So it was sprint cars, midgets, and late models.
Oh, yeah,
so
I remember that.
Sort of the 3-4 front speedway classes all on one night. The problem was when they did qualifying heats, pole shuffles or shootouts or whatever, and then the features, it still was a long night.
Yeah.
Because there was no support division that ran a 15-lap main. They all ran 30-lap mains. They all had B mains, and because there was good money on offer for every class, they had good car counts.
Yeah.
So the night became a long night again.
Wasn't everyone doubling up on cars too? Like
that was the idea. That was the idea. I think there was bonuses, like if you could. I'm trying to think what it was. If you could win, maybe I think if you won 2 classes, you got like a $5,000 bonus, and if you won like 3 classes on the night, you get like a $50,000 bonus. I don't even know if that's right, but it was something along those lines. Yeah,
right. Well, did you ever actually think of obviously starting like a school like Robbie Farr or anything, like touching Robbie Farr, or not really?
Not really. I mean, I don't think I've been around long enough. Like, and I don't mean that as in Robbie's old or anything, but Robert's been there, done that with virtually everything, and been around for a long time. And particularly at the time, I think it teamed up with Nick Speed, who's arguably the best current crew chief in the country, possibly. With the two of them together, you know, you had one guy there to teach you certain things about aspects of driving, and then the other was everything on the car side. So it was a good dynamic. I've never really looked at it. Again, like I say, you know, Robert's won World Series, the Classic, Australian titles in sprint cars, midgets. You know, done everything. I've never. Yeah.
So you couldn't see yourself doing something like that?
I don't think so. I mean, look, I don't know. You never know.
I just thought that based off, like, you know, you with Brett and you obviously being like one of the top guys in the paddock, helping the other guys through. Yeah. Obviously, it comes down again, money and. Yeah,
and I think just time and the ability to do it. I mean, look, you never say never, but at this point, probably not. I mean, it's. I think I've got enough on my plate, just going to work and looking after family and doing all that sort of thing, as well as racing. And then, and now we're sort of basically running 2 cars as such. There's a lot of stuff to get turned around on a week-to-week basis. As much as I said before, it's great in America, you can race Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. Even racing once a week, there's still a lot of work in between, just preparing cars and turning things around, you know.
Yeah.
Want to hear more? Each week we will share the hottest clips from our guest interviews on YouTube. But to hear the full episode, make sure to subscribe or follow us on your favourite podcast platform.